You're listening to The Talent Sync, a collaborative podcast production about anything and everything recruiting and hiring. Literally the kitchen sink on how all things in talent acquisition work together, should work together, and how sometimes they don't. Now it's time to sync up with your hosts, Leah Daniels and Kevin Grossman. This episode is about navigating your hot mess hiring with or without AI. Enjoy the podcast. Leah, it is so great to see you. Happy almost end of summer now, right? It's almost over. The summer is flown by.
The light switch just turned off up here in New England, and now we're in the dark and it's cold. And welcome to 40 degrees in the morning. And yes, you do need a sweatshirt to go to school, kids.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And like I was telling you, it's now 66 degrees, sunny and lightly breezy here for us. So this is September and October are some of them. Anybody who has lived in the Bay Area for any length of time would mostly concur. It's the most beautiful time of the year where we live. So I'm super happy about that. But I do, like I told you before we started, we definitely want the rain to come again so we can get some wet in the dry West. There's always that pesky fire danger that in late into the season. But that's not what we're going to talk about today.
No, we're going to talk about much more exciting things.
Much more exciting things. So just a quick segue as we continue our theme in and around all things AI in recruiting and hiring, and that I am finding I've never been anti-AI. I love the generative AI tools that I use. I use ChatGPT every day. I'm starting to use, Gemini a little bit just because we're a Google Workspace too, but Notebook LM, oh my goodness. Oh,
Yes.
These are becoming, what's that?
We could be Notebook LM right now. Nobody would know.
I would hope so. I hope so that they would know we are real. This is not AI, folks, that you're listening to right now. Good God. That's going to be scary at some point where you're not going to be able to discern, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but before that happens, but just using these tools have just been transformative and a lot of the work that I do in the research side and from a productivity perspective. And I'm still critical thinking, folks, just for everybody keeping score at home. I'm still writing my own stuff. But man, these tools are really powerful tools. They can be, right?
Yes, for good and for evil.
Well, and for evil, I know. But yes, and yes, and I like the glass half full kind of guy. I like to stay focused on the good, but like you and I were talking before we started, I've been talking to a lot of the companies that we work with that are trying to figure out and navigate the AI recruiting tech space. And everybody concurs that it's going to be a hot mess over the next few years. It really is for a lot of different reasons. The litigation that's going on, the lack of compliance guardrails, only certain states, I think on the federal level, probably not for a while. The list goes on, all those things. But what say you, Leah, about this topic?
So I agree with you. First of all, the world is going to get much messier before it gets cleaner. It just is. And I think the explosion of AI tools, in part because of AI tools, right? We've got vibe coding now allowing companies to create solutions for themselves very quickly. We also have vibe coding allowing candidates to create solutions for themselves very quickly. And if that's not enough, right, we now have AI applications and then we have AI assessments and screening. So the AIs are screening the AIs to make a decision about a person that we're going to hire. And that's going to get messy, 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 right?
It is. It's going to get messy. And this is why, though, I think why a lot of the loudest noises in the room are those from the AI side saying that, oh, it's going to be transformative. You've got to use this. But I'm telling you, a lot of employers that I work with on a regular basis, year round, and in the candies and beyond, are are still pretty wary. I mean, yes, I mean there are those in the Fortune 100, 500, large global enterprises that are probably doing more than we even are aware of right now in regards to embedding AI. They're being pressured from the C-suite to do that. Um, I think that again, without getting too displaced ourselves, I think the displacement that's happening is not necessarily directly because of AI. I think it's also an excuse for companies to thin down
Sure.
since the past years, and that's been documented already out there. That's not necessarily new, but there's still a lot of wariness of using these tools in recruiting, hiring, and even on the employee side in development assessment. But the thing that I think we wanted to touch on more today, right, is what do the job candidates and employees think?
Well, what do they think about these AI tools that they know they're interacting with, right? Because we already know they
Yeah.
hate the ones they perceive they're being interacted with, right? The candidates think there's an AI screening them
Oh,
out based on their
totally.
resume, most of which is not true. Of course, we all know this. There are some pockets of it, but there's very limited use of AI in the screening out candidates via their resume. But we are seeing more and more AI interview tools, interview screening tools, AI tools in which the candidate is interacting with it either via chat, via text, via video, or via phone. There is this AI um, explosion of products
Hmm.
coming out that companies are trying to use to combat a different problem they have, which is I wake up in the morning and I have 1,000 applications against this job I just posted.
Correct.
What do I do now?
Yeah. And
Right?
right. And I think the the conversation that I've been having is and you and I have touched on this before too, is that on the candidates truly do believe that. In fact, and in the top three negative sentiment themes in this year's data that we're just about ready to start fully analyzing, but just looking at that is the fact that they believe that AI is selecting them out. On the candidate side, employers are going to have to figure out how to use these tools in a compliant, less biased potential way, with help from the vendor themselves, with their own teams, training the data. I mean, they're just going to have to figure this out because there's no way, because people are being missed now. I mean, I know everybody talks about, well, you know, the best way to find a job is to network your way in, but the reality is maybe for profession and management level positions across many industries, but for people who are new grads, it's like one of the worst markets for them that they've ever
Hmm.
seen. And unfortunately, we're going to see probably higher unemployment amongst certain demographics, like again, new grads. But the fact that we're going to have to figure out how to use these tools. But the thing that I'm a little bit, I guess, tired of. I'm not really a ranter. You and I both like to
Right.
talk shop, but we're not really ranters per se. But I'm a little bit done with the narrative around, well, candidates love these AI screening tools. Like I just keep seeing it and hearing it and like, oh, they do, but in the absence of nothing else, right? If I'm gonna be,
Exactly.
I mean, that's where
Yes.
if there's the absence of any human interaction at all, and I'm getting engaged and getting questions asked of me and kind of moving along in the process, then sure, that's fine. But don't tell me that can't there maybe there's a small portion of the population that would prefer not to have human interaction. Then they're going to have those kinds of jobs too, right? I mean, it's okay though. But for the majority of us, we want to talk to humans. We want to be screened
Well,
by humans. We want to be interviewed by humans. So I know that there's some new products that I've seen that are being promoted that are, you know, AI avatars that are doing screening interviews now.
yes.
Ah,
And And they're not avatars, they are, but they, my
Well, they're
goodness,
they're
they
they're human.
are,
They're human like. They're
they're
like
so
it's
human-like.
yes, it's really good AI today, and I get all that. And like, listen, I remember when HireVue first came to market with their one-way recorded interviews, and there was a big backlash for that those products.
Oh, I remember
And boy,
that.
by the way, candidates still don't really like those those one-way
So
recorded videos.
I remember those the early days, and they, it was one, you had one avatar, but it was a person who had recorded everything ahead of
Yeah.
time, and then they quickly got dated. You were like, oh, they definitely recorded that 10 years ago. Oh goodness. But
Well,
they didn't like it then, right? And they
no.
don't like it now. But I agree with, so there's a couple things. I agree with you in that they would rather take the AI interview than nothing at all. Silence
Hmm.
is worse. I also think that it's going to become a standard. And so there is
Yeah.
it's kind of like they all hate the ATS too, but like we all accepted that as part of the
Sure.
process of getting your information. And I think it's going to be a standard. I think the key here that companies have a real opportunity to do is two things. So one is transparency. Like, let's not say anything and then just send somebody to what they believe is an interview and then they find out it's an AI screen, right? Transparency, transparency, transparency it needs to be on your career site. It needs to be in your job postings. You need to be transparent about your process and that you're going to use a screener. I think that's something that I've seen exactly no one doing and really needs to start happening if you're going
Hmm.
to use these screeners. I think that's one. The second is I am seeing more and more companies, not their legal department sign off on it yet, but getting closer to this idea that yes, the AI will probably have bias, but we've got some good news in here. Two things. One, people have bias already. It's not like we didn't have that before. It's actually just harder to monitor because there's many people with many different bias. Right now, the AI has one bias. So if it's got one, you're more likely to see it in the data faster. Now, the bad part in recruiting is this is hard to fix, right? You can fix it going forward, but what do you do about the past? And I think that's the piece everybody's still grappling with. If we introduce bias into the process and now we see it and know it, how do you unwind what you've already done over the last 6 months? Because you made hires based on that. You made decisions.
You're not. I just you can't negate what you've already done. I mean, but it is positive if you can make it those adjustments going forward, though, right? I mean, if you
Right.
can, if you were missing people that should have moved along in the process, and you were moving people on the process that maybe shouldn't have been because of that. But I mean, but remember, humans. We're also pretty fallible too. We also aren't necessarily the best decision makers neurologically speaking, and we make mistakes. And but I think you have to, so you do have to. I just don't know what's going to happen is the unwinding is now being unwinding in the form of collective lawsuits. That's what's happening right now.
Well, I think that is interesting too, right? Because we were just talking before. We all know about the Workday lawsuit. Everybody is aware. There's the serious XM
XM.
lawsuit.
There's one on
The
HireVue which I have to look up, but there is some I don't know the details because I didn't do it before this. Did you look it up?
briefly, but I don't know enough
Uh,
about it to say anything at this
yeah.
point. But I think that what's interesting is up until and still even now, the vendor is not responsible for the bias, and I think that that is probably wrong, right? You have to own your technology, and if it's producing across customers biased outcomes, then yes, your technology is the problem, and you have to own that responsibility, which means you have to own the monitoring of it. So that's where it gets a little bit sticky.
It so talk more about that.
So if you think about how data and data ownership works, and it gets a little messy across the globe, but
Sure.
each one of a company, I'm going to pick on Workday, but it's not Workday. It's different for any other ATS. You have a company, ABC, using Workday, and they have all their data in their database in
Hmm.
Workday. That is segregated from other Workday customers' data,
Right.
right? There should be no version of events in which Workday can say, pull me data across all of my customers and tell me how much bias
Well,
is
because
happening.
they have that those are agreements they have in place not to do that. right? I
And
mean,
well, but also because that is really important so that you don't have any data bleed from one
correct.
company's into another company, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
there's lots of good reasons why you want, and when you think about a company like Workday, where it's not just an ATS, that's financial data. They do payroll out of that information. There's a lot of really sensitive information in each customer's data instance. You really want to keep those walls up nice and tight. The challenge is as we roll into this idea of introducing AI into the world, into our
Yeah.
databases, right? And data sets behind that AI, and now accountability behind it, you have to be able to see data across customers to see if there's widespread bias in the technology, which is different than a customer's own bias within the technology. So there's a difference there that's going to get really hard to monitor, but I think it's going to happen.
Well, well, the vendor, they have to, they've got it. They're going to have to be able to do that then, right? I mean, especially as one as big as Workday, but any of them for that matter that
But then
have
they have
not
to
only
monitor outcomes, right? They have to monitor the outcomes of the AI.
and that and hence the so far the legal and again you and I don't play employment lawyers not even on TV, so we're
No,
not
never.
not even but we do know that so far that these lawsuits have been given the green light to move ahead with from the from the judges that are presiding over
Right,
this especially on in the workday case, but then that leads me, so yes, I agree with you on that, but then that leads but that also leads to the question is the how much responsibility does the employer have for using
right.
this tool, which is where we're at legally right now too, I think, with these
Yes.
lawsuits,
Well, I
right?
think that's always been the case is that the employer owns the outcome. And if the tool they buy is biased, then they also own the responsibility of that acquisition of a biased tool.
Right.
I think the challenge is how do you know it's biased until you've used it and looked at the outcomes because you can't peek into somebody else's data
No.
and
You're listening to the Talent Sync. Keep on sinking. With us, not really sync with us. Thank you. What do your candidates think of your recruiting process? The annual Candy Benchmark Research and Awards program helps you and your organization measure and understand your overall candidate experience ratings from pre-application to onboarding. Benchmark your candidate experience today. Go to surveil.com/candies, CANDES. You
see what
can't.
they've done, right? So
No, but as the vendor you can.
as the vendor, you should be
You
monitoring it.
should be monitoring, but
But if
not
you
the
have
employer
no
though.
but if you have no responsibility up until this point in time, right, then it's really a matter of only if the vendor was ethically or morally compelled to watch this information rather than legally held to it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in this current business environment that we're in, I think morals and ethics are kind of are in in the I was going to say the shitter. I'm not supposed to cuss on our podcast, but still, that's another story for another time. But I do think that, and then what's what's fascinating about this? This is why, and this has been years ago now, but I've seen there's been a couple of tech plays that gave this premise I'm going to tell you a go that and I think everything that we're talking about is why they didn't work. So there was some tech platforms, I don't remember the names now, that were trying to convince employers to share the pool of rejected candidates
Oh, yes.
into another pool that other employers could then mine and
Yes.
source and market to and do these things. And there was one that I remember actually seeing the demo and talking to them about it, and they had a little bit of early traction, and then it just died. It just completely died on the vine, and for other reasons besides what we're talking about too, I'm sure. But I think but this is why that's just not going to work too, right? Because of the regulations around it. And you are the one that always reminds me of compliance and the importance of adhering to all of that, right? Anyway, as I'm just I just thought of it because I thought, wow, I wonder if that's one of the reasons why those platforms don't work.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because the availability and access of the information is getting easier and easier. The systems are doing a better job of providing employers control so they can provide that data back to or move it wherever they like. You say, you mentioned this idea of these companies. I've seen a few of them over the years that provide the rejected candidate pool, or your second place or third place candidates, and a way for people to swap and do a better job. That data oftentimes didn't belong to the company that was sharing it was the bigger problem, right? So if you have European data at all, any European candidates, those aren't your data. That's not your data to share. It's right, the resident of Europe. And so that's oftentimes, again, compliance, legal stuff gets in the way of
Right.
these tools. But it's an interesting overall problem that, who owns the data, who has rights to look at the outcomes, who has rights to analyze it. If you're analyzing it only for the purposes of ensuring that the product you're delivering is compliant, you probably have a lot more leeway than if you're analyzing it for other reasons.
Hmm.
But you may never know that data. So let's keep we'll gameplay this a little further. So let's say I'm a company and I use Workday for my ATS, but I don't use it for my onboarding, my hiring, or my financials.
Hmm.
I may not know the outcome. I may only get so much information out of the ATS because depending on how the company leverages and uses these systems, they may not actually share the hire data within the ATS. Not all companies hit that hire button and
Right.
the hire happens. And so you have a real data gap that can happen. So I think it's going to be really interesting. But I do sort of bring this all back to candidates and the AI, and do they like it? Do they want it? Do they want to be interviewed by AI agents? I think that they not have a choice. I think we're going to get to a world where, we were talking about replacing the recruiter. I don't think we're going to replace the recruiter, but I do think we're going to replace first round screen on a lot of high activity jobs where lots of people are applying. As soon as we hit
Yes.
a certain threshold, I think that the agents are going to step in as first level screen to get
Yep.
more information for candidates.
And I think that we're going to have to because of the volume of you know, even though things have stagnated on the hiring front right now, but for any growth of mid-sized to global enterprise, they're going to have to with the volume that they're getting, and and I know that there's this. In fact, at the end of the month, I'm going to do one of Hung Lee's live streams.
Oh yeah.
We're going to be talking about candidate ghosting by the employers and just this and he's kind of billing it kind of the tsunami of AI applications. I'm not really sure it's a tsunami yet, but it is growing though. It is a problem, especially for higher volume employers and what you're gathering now too that we're going to talk about at some point, all the tools that are out there that are AI driven for candidates, making it easier for them to apply. But I always it always boils down to me, for me, Leah, that from a candidate's perspective, they only want the job. Anybody that's legitimately looking for work, whether they need it or really want it or whatever, or somewhere in between, in any market, they just want the job. So they could give a crap about, unless they're in our space or in technology, not at least not at the top of mind everything that we're talking about, but everything that we're talking about impacts their experience and whether or not they get any closer to potentially getting that job at the end of the day. So if there are things that move them forward, there is a positive bump in sentiment, whether it's automated, AI, or humans. It doesn't matter because it's about getting to the end goal, and the end goal is to hire. And by the way, that's the same reason why we have talent acquisition and recruiters and people responsible in hiring, because that's their end goal is to make those hires.
I think there's a couple of benefits that are coming out of all of this for candidates, maybe, right?
Okay.
The first is, if 1,000 people apply and a human recruiter is on the other side, they are not reviewing 1,000 applications. They cannot.
No.
They cannot. So they have a couple of choices in front of them. They can start with the top and get to whatever they get to
Yeah.
and move forward, and everybody else doesn't even get a peek at. That's group one. So as a candidate,
That's what's
having some,
happening now, by the way.
that
Especially
is
that's
what's
what's
happening.
happening now. Yeah.
And so the best candidate for the job may have been in the next spot. They just never made it to them, right?
Correct.
So you add in AI, which is definitely exponentially more efficient in getting through information.
Yep.
So if we can put an AI in and to do a screen or do an analysis or do a ranking, we may have a shot at the job that you would not have had before. Even though you did
Hmm.
all the right things and you followed the rules and you applied for the job the right way and you played with the ATS and all the stuff,
Yep.
you now have a shot that you may not have had before. So that I think there's a benefit of. The scary piece for me right now is the when I look at AI tools for candidates, the most prolific AI tools are not the mass supply that everybody's worried about. It's the AI rewrite your resume
Sure.
in automate rewrite your resume
Right.
to match the job description. So these scoring tools that are just looking at these two data points, the job description and the resume, that's the one where I think candidates who aren't participating in the AI are probably being left behind, so they're not getting ranked high enough. But on the other side, the employer is getting nothing valuable out of that.
Hmm.
You are getting nothing valuable because every resume looks the same because they've all been rewritten by an AI that all match your job description.
Correct. Right.
So I do think that there is, I mean, I think there's a world where we start to see a job posting that looks different than a job description, and the ranking runs against the job description, and the posting goes out to the public. I think that that is a real likely outcome in
Sure.
order to give the companies an ability to rank resumes against a standard that isn't visible to an AI to begin with. I don't know. I just made that up. I don't know if anybody's doing that, but that
That
feels
we,
like to me
that's an
where it's gonna
no,
end up.
that's an interesting premise, and I know that's something that is the conundrum that organizations are trying to and have to figure out, and with the solution providers they work with too, right? That on some
Yeah.
level, how do we get there? Because I know now, even if you don't want to use ranking, which is again, um, there's a wariness around that. There's still going to be you got to have the ability to match and bucket
Yep.
individuals, and but this is what's again like you said, so I think that would be interesting, but I don't know. It's just like I saw somebody post the other day, like, well, employers are going to start bringing back the paper resumes. I'm like, no, they're not.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. That's not.
0%
No,
chance of that.
that's not happening in a million freaking years. But yeah, it's so again, as we kind of wrap up this episode, folks, and thanks again for listening. Um, to the talent sink. That is what we are known as, the talent sink. Leah Daniels and Kevin Grossman. But to wrap it up, the it's gonna be a hot mess. I mean, there are any
Oh,
time that we have this kind of disruption, there are good things that are going to come out of it, and employers and solution providers alike are going to have to figure it out together because there's a lot. I think there's a lot of candidates that not only believe that AI is killing their chances today, that they're just in the dark and they're being missed. I think a lot of potential for those, especially for employers, whether they're evergreen positions or they're looking for somebody who maybe they're open to potential hiring, which is something we've talked about a lot too. I mean, you're not going to have perfect matches for a lot of roles. If they're open to that, we got to figure out how to get there so that we're not missing individuals that could be the person that we want to hire for next. Um, I do think that hiring, which could be another topic for another time too, based on some of the forecasts that I've seen, hiring is going to be a little bit on the anemic side, um, in the near term right now, and a lot more looking internally. And
yep.
right, so, but that said, I guess healthcare continues to be the one that's driving most of the job growth, basically, and spotty hospitality, construction, other kinds of those
Anybody
industries
with
too.
a data center? Anybody with a data center? Like,
Right, 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 right. It's true. You're right about that. So,
yep.
and there's going to be that high volume side. Um, but anyway, so folks, just I guess let's keep trying to figure it out, right, Leah? Because we've got to. It will be a hot mess, but there's a lot of things that we can get to mitigate bias, to be able to use automation and AI, and to really help find the candidates that either perceive they're being lost or truly are being lost at the end of the day. So,
I like it. I think we can rename the podcast to the Talent Sync, how to navigate your hot mess hiring.
There we go. I like that. How to navigate your hot mess hiring. That's actually going to be the title of this episode. So thank you so much for that now. That's what we're
You're
going to
welcome.
do. Sound good, Leah? Always a pleasure, Leah.
Likewise, man.
All right. Talk soon.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Talent Sync podcast, a Surveil Candy and Job Sync collaboration. More episodes soon. Subscribe to our podcast via your favorite podcast player today.